Hello there, and welcome to the tour video for the Yak Dismantling and Salvage Armoured Engineering Vehicle, the second vehicle in my Military Utility Logistics or Transport Vehicles series. My name is Wimp, and I am the Chief Designer, Chief Builder, Chief Architect, and Chief Dumbass behind the Yak Armoured Engineering Vehicle. Now, let's come out of this view, and before I show you around this new vehicle, I'm first going to show you around the kind of original sort of vehicle-ish. So, here is the kind of original sort of vehicle-ish over here, and it's the Barghest heavy tank of my Armoured Fighting Hover Vehicles series. It's the 10th vehicle in that series. So, if I go to this page in my Steam browser, I've done a Google search for armoured engineering vehicles, and as you can see, quite a lot of them seem to be main battle tanks with the turret removed and a bulldozer blade added to the front. You might also notice, maybe if you're observant, some of them have a big digger crane on them as well. A digger arm, I should say. I didn't want to do that with this, but I kind of like the idea of a tank with the tank turret removed and a bulldozer blade added to the front. So I was thinking about using my main battle hover tank, the Jackal, but it's a bit too small for carrying around the stuff that you would actually salvage. So I decided on the heavy tank instead. And as you can probably see, what I'm calling outrigs down the side are bespoke to the new vehicle, but the middle bit is quite literally copy and pasted. You may notice there have been some alterations, other than the obvious. The turrets, the plasma turrets, have been replaced with the tall turrets. So the weapons on the side of the vehicle there have been removed, and the top where the tank turret is on this one has been adapted. Anything else? Oh yeah, and of course the window that you look out of when you're inside. Because this is a fighting vehicle, it has a small window. Not so important on this one, so it has a big window. Now, however, if we go inside the heavy tank, this is almost completely the same in the other one. The seats do different jobs. The seats are there, but the hollow displays that appear when you turn on weapons in this, that's a comms panel for the vehicle commander. Well, in the other one, these two are operator seats for the tall turrets. And behind this shutter, where in this one there is access to fuel, actually, a little bit of story. Let me go and quickly show you the other one. Don't actually need to close those. So, as I was building these outrigs, I ended up with a 2x1 gap here. And I decided that it would be good to put some fuel there and have it accessible from the sides. So because fuel is accessible elsewhere, you don't need access there, so I put some extra container extensions in that gap and then just covered them up with some blocks, which we will see later on. But there you go, so that's the original-ish kind of sort of vehicle-ish. So now that we've had a look at that, let me tell you about the new vehicle, starting with its role and its task equipment. So, as a dismantling and salvage armoured engineering vehicle, its role is to, how did I word it? Demolish or recycle any POIs or any vehicles you find out or have spawned in that you don't need anymore, is the idea. Now, obviously, it can also be used, therefore, to repair, because it's the same turrets that do the repair as does the salvaging. So it can do that. And in order to facilitate those tasks, it has 2 multi-turrets and a couple of 10k ore and wood containers. Yes. Right. The next segment then is its propulsion, handling, and lift capacity. So, starting with its forward thrust, as I usually do, it has 6 large tier 2s. I'm going to turn that off before it gets on my nerves during this tour. So it has 2 in the outrigs, and it has 2 in the place where they were on the Barguest heavy tank as well. So it has 6 forward. And then it has 4 large tier 2 thrusters in all other directions. Right. Hover boosters, it has 4 of them for your jumping needs. Hover engines, it has 6 on by default. The 6 you can see lit there. Now, those 6 will allow this vehicle to operate in just shy of 6G. But that's dry weight. That's as it weighs right now. I did the mathematics on a calculator, and that's what it came out to. However, once you start filling it full of stuff, that will change, obviously. That will go down. Now, the other 4 you can see that aren't lit, the other 4 large hover engines, they are set to max lift. And with max lift on, it will lift just under 204 tons in 4G. It's just above 203.9 tons. Now, the vehicle itself weighs 82.1 proof, which means that with max lift on in 4G, you can carry just shy of 122 tons in its cargo containers, etc. Right, mobility, starting with its maneuverability, its 6 large tier 2 thrusters will propel it forward at 25 meters per second squared. The 4 in all the other directions will accelerate it at 17 meters per second squared. Agility, it has a yaw of 28 degrees per second, and not particularly important is a 4 degrees of roll and a 6 degrees of pitch. So not very agile, actually, other than yaw. Turning's good, but everything else is a bit poor. But again, I don't find those particularly important in a HV. So, as I've said in other videos, maybe as you're transferring from flat ground to up the side of a mountain like that, you might want to assist the hover engines by pitching up. Not quite such a not such good performance in this vehicle for that. I think it's its length that does it. Its length and the thrusters aren't very far apart. So I think other vehicles have slightly better pitch because you might have thrusters really low down at the front and then really high up at the back. But on this, these thrusters here are on the same block level as the front one. So I think that's what does the pitch. Anyway, said it wasn't important, and then I rambled on about it for half an hour. Right. As for its handling then, let's give it a quick test drive. And this is with pilot mode off. You can probably see where I stop turning as I move my mouse. Let's pop pilot mode on and see what it's like then. It's not terrible. Yes, it's okay. Right, let's park where it's flattish. Okay, so that's the end of that segment. So the next segment then is its power, fuel, and air. Now this segment, or the power bit at least, is slightly more complicated than other vehicles of mine. So it has 6 large generators. Now 4 of those are and I will show you where everything is when I get to the interior layout later on, but for now I'm just going to tell you about the stuff. There are 4 large generators on by default, and then there's another one set to propulsion, etc. Because I think I did the maths, and all of the thrusters and all of the hover engines come to just a little bit under a what the output of one large generator is. So I put that on the same signal. On top of that, there is a 6th generator that is set to the same signal that turns on the salvage mode, the salvage turrets. Fuel, there is 14 large fuel tanks. I've already shown you where 2 of them are. I mean, technically I only showed you one of them, but there's another one on the other side in the mirror image position. So that's easy. The rest are all inside. O2, it has 7 O2 tanks, 1 ventilator, no compartmentalization. So the inside of the vehicle is one compartment. It isn't split up in any way. And it has an O2 station. So that's the end of that segment. So the next segment then is its weapons, defenses, and construction. I just remembered one of the fuel tanks I forgot, the pentaxid tank, which I consider to be fuel because it's fuel for certain things. It probably gives you a clue of what else is on the vehicle, but it has a pentaxid tank. And actually, we'll be getting to that now. That's why I remembered. It'll be in the defenses bit. Probably can guess. So, weapons. It has 8 Gatling turrets, which means that this vehicle isn't device limit compliant. That means if you want to use the vehicle, you're either going to need to turn device limits off, which, as far as I know, most people do anyway. Or, of course, you can spawn it into like a creative mode and take the top 2 off or something, or that one and the matching one on that side or something like that. So the device limit for Gatling turrets is 6, and this has 8. Now, these on this vehicle are set to what I consider anti-personnel. So it'll target NPCs, players, and predators. As a result of the NPCs and players, it'll also target the drones, which is nice. I mean, it would be nice, actually, to be able to target drones and ground troops separately, but never mind. A lot of vehicles, it probably wouldn't make a lot of difference because you would probably set them all to target both anyway, so me. Defenses. So, as I alluded to, has a shield. Also, it is armoured, hence the armoured bit of the armoured engineering vehicle. Now, it's not as heavily armoured as the tank that it's based on. A lot of it has been downgraded. But as you can see, a lot of the front and the top is combat steel. The blade at the front is not. It's a mix between hardened and normal steel. The outrigs, apart from the very front, are mostly hardened steel. The little block shapings around the turrets are combat steel, other than these bits, but that's not particularly important. Most of the top is combat steel, so it changes to hardened steel there, along the corner. Well, this is all combat steel. The top is all combat steel. There is a slight amount along the back, but it's not a lot. In fact, I think it's just the top row and a little bit on the side. There you go. And then everything else has been downgraded to hardened steel. There is a small amount just behind the shutter there. That is combat steel. The circular block there. There's a little bit here because I don't know if actually I've never mentioned it. Maybe people have noticed it. So generally speaking, although there are some exceptions, but like depending on whether I can get them on the vehicle or if it looks right in the right place, that texture and those decorative blocks indicate where the generators are. The idea being that they're supposed to be exhaust ports or something. Exhaust ports? So there is some hardened, some combat steel there. It's actually underneath those. There's one bit there, actually, that I can actually point the actual cursor at, actually. Those are combat steel and that one, and then everything else is hardened. So there you go. This stuff that's just decorative is just steel. Apart from the bits in front of the thrusters, that's also combat steel. And then on the inside, the decorative bits are also steel like this. I don't think there's any carbon composite. I can never... I always get carbon composite and carbon substrate mixed up, and it's carbon composite is made from substrate. Right, so... And construction, yeah, I sort of covered that as well, haven't I? Yes. Oh, and the underside is almost completely hardened steel. There is, I think, a small amount of steel when it's not really protecting anything. Like, for example, there. Right, so that's the end of that segment then. So the next segment is its resource gathering, production, and storage. So, resource gathering, it has 2 tool turrets that have been placed... No, yes. Tool turrets placed as multi-turrets. Is that right? Yes, multi-turrets. In order to facilitate the task of tearing down POIs and bases and, you know, wreckages and old vehicles you don't want anymore and such. As I said at the beginning, but just in case you're skipping through the video, that does also mean that it can repair as well. Production, it has a single constructor. And for storage, again, I will show you where these are in a mo, but for now, I'm just going to tell you about them. It has 2 10,000 SU ore and wood containers. It has a single 2K ammo container and a 1K SU cargo container. It also has 5 small cargo boxes, 1 armor locker, and 1 mini fridge. So that's the end of that segment. So the next segment then is its interior layout and any remaining devices. Now, before I land it on the floor, I will just show you it has a whole bunch of docking pads. Obviously, it doesn't need them all, but, you know, symmetry and thing. Symmetry and OCD and stuff, yeah. Right then, parked it on the floor. Let's turn the signals back on and we'll have a look around the inside. Actually, no, I'll do this first. So, the ramps, the door, that light there, and the 2 ground lights, which are there and there, are all on that motion sensor. Now, the tank it's based on, the door, isn't on the motion sensor, but I felt that this wasn't going to be in combat so much that you might be walking around inside within a hostile area. So I thought it would be nice to put the door on the motion sensor in this one. What was I going to mention before? There was... Oh, yeah, these shutters. So, behind this shutter is access to the O2 tanks. And then behind this shutter, you might be able to guess by the colouring, is the pentaxid tank. Okay, let's take a walk inside, where we have on the left hand side, you don't need to crouch there, by the way. I was looking up to see where the motion sensor is. It's further forward. Thanks. So on the left hand side we have a clone chamber, the ventilator, and the O2 station, the mini fridge, the medic station, and a small cargo box for storing extra meds in. On the right hand side we have the constructor. We have the 1K SU cargo box, which the constructor is connected into. Here's where on the other vehicle I was showing those shutters that has been covered up, which funny enough makes that cargo box obviously 750 in the other one. There's a small cargo box there, which on the other one was for fuel, but in this it's for anything. Right, moving forward, we have the armor locker, another small cargo box for maybe armor boosts, another 2 small cargo boxes on the wall there. Oh, in the ceiling we have the shield, we have the ammo box, which as you can see is 2K, as I said. There is the Wi-Fi. Then we have the motion sensor for controlling the lights in here. There is also a light switch, so that as you get in the seats, the motion sensor no longer detects you. So if you want to leave the lights on when you get into a seat, you flick the switch and now they will stay on. Excuse me, can I turn my head? Thank you. There you go. Lights on. Wax on, wax off. Right, so here are the two ore and wood containers. Oh yeah, you might keep bumping your head on these things, but personally I'm okay with it. You know, it's a military vehicle. It's going to be cramped. So, ore and wood containers, 10k each. Now, I will float in, because I'm going to show you where all the fuel and stuff is. So, most of the outrigs are the container extensions. So, you do have to be careful taking shots from the side. Now, as I said earlier, the sides are only hardened steel. So, again, just be careful. But it might take a little while to eat through enough container extensions to actually disconnect parts of it from the controller. So, oh yeah, I forgot about the lag shot armor in the defenses bit. So there is a small amount of what we call lag shot armor in the front of this. There's not a lot because, again, it's not a combat vehicle, but there is some. Now, if you could be bothered to dig around in here, there is quite a few blocks. If you want a bit more space in those ore and wood containers, you could, in fact, tear some of the armor out and connect up some more extensions. Right, so here's some of the fuel. That's 2 extra when compared to the bar guest. Another 2 on the other side in a mirror image. There's the rest. Again, same on the other side. There's the ones accessible through the shutter. And there are the generators. Also, an extra bit of O2 compared to the bar guest is there. Anything else in here? Oh, the CPU extenders, which you probably saw actually from in here, because they are visible. Detector is on top of the Wi-Fi under that bit of glass there. And actually, that's the same place it is on the bar guest. I don't know why I'm looking over there. It's not there anymore. So, there we go. Now, that leads us on to the last things, which is the holo displays that show you what the various device toggleables are. And that leads us on to the next segment, which is its shortcuts and signals. So as you can see on the holo display there, the first device group toggle is propulsion, etc. And that will turn on and off all of the thrusters and what I was referring to earlier as the default hover engines. Oh, and that one generator. So just in case you're skipping around in the video, default hover engines are those two, the rear 2, the middle 2, and the very front 2. Which generator is it turns on? It must be this one over here. So it also turns on that generator to help give extra power. Right, the next one down is its max lift, and as you can see on the holo display, I do give you a little hint at what you can carry in 4G with max lift on. Now, that doesn't include the vehicle, so you need to take the vehicle weight into consideration. There isn't enough room on that little display to say, you know, an additional this much. Although I think I have in others, actually, but whatever. So turning that on will, of course, turn on the other hover engines under here. The next one down is the headlights. Now, this uses the small lights, actually, in spotlight mode for its headlights. And I know you're thinking, well, what are they for? We'll get to that, and you may have seen it, actually, on the holo display. So the headlights are the same as I usually use on tanks, usually. Now, it isn't really a tank, but it's sort of adapted from one, so I thought it'd be nice to keep those. So there they are. Now, in case you care, the outermost ones have a slightly wider angle of spotlight to the innermost ones, 110 compared to 70. Same on this side. So the next device toggle down is tail lights. Of course, I have the red flares on the back like usual. If you don't like them, you can turn them off, and if you hate them, you can multi-tool them off. So the next one down are the spotlight blocks, the work lights. Now the idea of these is to light up a massive area of a POI, or at least as big as I could, in order so that you can operate at night. So as you can see, I mean, it's not great, but it does light up from all the way over there to all the way over there. Obviously, it's mostly brighter in the middle. So there you go. You can tear stuff down at night time. The last device group toggle is the ventilator. Now, just in case you haven't seen any tours of mine before, I will go through this real quick. If you turn the oxygen off, the power left doesn't change. And that's because although it stops blowing air into the vehicle, it doesn't turn off the ventilator. So I've given you a switch to do that. And if you have a look at the power left, it will save some. So if you're in the breathable atmosphere of a planet, then you can save a bit of power. You're a bit late, that was a week ago. Right, moving on to the signals toggles. And the first one, as usual with my vehicles, is the power save. Now, turning power save on, actually, let's do it anyway. So turning power save on will turn off all of the light controls, all of the motion sensors and the levers, which means you'll have to operate the ramp and the door manually. It'll also turn off the Wi-Fi, the 2 passenger seats. As you can probably see, it also turns off the LCDs in here that were on. And I think that's everything. Yes, I'm pretty sure it is. Now, as I usually say, the fridge is not on the power save function because I don't want you to accidentally ruin your food in there by turning power save on. I think it's always best to operate the fridges manually yourself. Can you do it from in here as well? No, you can't. So you have to do it there. Right. Oh, and I've been trying to get into the habit of explaining what the power save mode is for. And actually, is it there? I might actually have to get one out of the creative menu. Is it the O2 tanks? One of these says it. Which one is it? Is it this? Okay. I can't find what it is now. As I was building this vehicle, I had something in my hand where the text that shows up here when you hover over it was explaining how the vehicle returns to whatever cold or hot environment it is in if it's turned off. And I now cannot find what it was that told me that. But that's why I have the power save mode. It's so that you can turn, along with the other switches, so you turn power save on, propulsion off, the tail lights off, and you leave ventilators on. And now with that setup, you can park it on a ship that you're carrying it around in, where it's open to the elements. And what that'll do is save the vehicle itself from becoming too hot or too cold, because when you turn the vehicle on, it takes a little while to go back to normal, the environment. So I've given you that there so that you don't need to worry about that stuff. I just wish I could find now, because it explained it better than I can. Stuff it. Whatever. I mean, I'm sure you get the gist. So, the next signal toggleable down is the salvage mode. That will turn on the 2 multi-turrets. It'll also turn on the 1 generator I was showing you, plus a couple of LCD pretend display heads-up jobs with a little bit of information on it, like, for example, the range of them. And, as you can see, there is some hazard beacons on the vehicle that it'll turn on as well. Flashy, flashy, orange flash. So there you go. The next one down is obviously for all of the defense turrets. Oh, I forgot about the Gatling guns in the defense bit. So it has the same 3 Gatling guns in the same place as the Barghest heavy tank. I removed the plasma, the pulse laser guns, as I said, but I've left these in place so you can shoot anything manually if you wish. Next one down is production. That'll turn on and off the constructor on the inside. Oh, wait, I didn't show you that. So that is currently connected to... Oh, I did tell you that. It's just I told you when I was talking about that. Anyway, blah, whatever. Finally, close shutters. So, if you accidentally leave one of these open, any of them, in fact, even that one or the one on the other side, I didn't want to have... and you get into the driver's seat and you go to this view and you notice it's open. I didn't want you to have to get out the seat to go and close them. So you flick the switch, it'll close anything left open, and it'll only close them, it won't open them again. Right, that's the end of that segment. The next segment then is its CPU and upgrading. There it is, I found it, it's in the cockpits bit, the description of the cockpit. Switching off vessel slowly drops or rise to outside temperature. Reheating or cooling will take time after reactivating the vessel. So, the power save is for that, to stop that from happening. There we go. Found it! So, CPU. So, just in case you're skipping around in the video, the core, which I didn't show you earlier actually, and I should have, is in front of the driver's seat here, surrounded by a bit of armor and a whole bunch of container extensions. It is a tier 4 CPU vehicle, and the extenders are there and behind there, and the same on the other side. The actual CPU usage is just over 52,000 out of the 100,000 that tier 4 allows. So like I said earlier, there is some room to play with the CPU. However, as for upgrading, there is no inbuilt upgrade path. That doesn't mean you can't personalize it. For example, you might want to rip these turrets off and add the artillery turret back on, for example. And then maybe swap the ore and wood container controllers out for ammo again. And have yourself a slightly different Barghest tank that carries a lot more ammo, but is a bit squishier, for example. You could do that. You could put passenger seats all along these if you like. I mean, but I don't consider personalization to be upgrading, so there's nothing inbuilt for you to put anything in place. There's no spaces or gaps for stuff. But there you go. Right. One more thing before I let you go is the additional primary colors. So these are the same as the Armoured Fighting Hover Vehicle series, because the Military Utility Logistics or Transport Vehicles series is a supplement to the AFHVs. They are military as well, they're just not combat vehicles. Although, I mean, there are a couple even in the AFHVs where you would question that. Like a scout car with one minigun turret. Really? Combat vehicle? But it kind of is. And the truck as well, the Bobcat. Anyway, so the additional primary colours. So as you can probably tell, it comes in this desert sand, which is ever so slightly tan. But it also comes with this military green. And it comes with this Arctic white. And it comes with this dark grey. So there we go. Now, I'm sure it goes without saying, but you can, of course, change these colours if you would like. You could go pink or whatever. Right, now, there is one last thing to do before I let you go. And that is to go... There we go. I don't know why, I like doing that in the tours of new vehicles. But there you go, it is uploaded, hooray! Right, so there we go. That'll be the end of the tour. Thank you very much for taking an interest in the Yak Dismantling and Salvage Armoured Engineering Vehicle. I hope you get some use out of it, and hopefully I will see you in another video for a different build. So thank you again, and goodbye.